Cloud. Okay, we're recording. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Metaphysical Bible Hangout. I'm Reverend Sherry James, Senior Minister for Understanding Principles for Better Living Church in Los Angeles, California, and I am over the moon to be here. This is an incredible experience. I just realized I need to check something, my audio options, make sure I'm using the right sound. That's not what I want to do. What do I want to do? All right, hang tight. I got to make sure I got the right sound going. Okay, audio options. I'm gonna have to trust that it is that I'm using the USB. Okay, all right. The USB mic just gives a better sound. And it's a better sound quality because it doesn't pick up all the other stuff that's out there. All right, here we go. All right, so our topic tonight, we are working from Neville Goddard's Your Faith is Your Fortune. Excellent, excellent text. I cannot say enough good things about this dude. Every time I read him, I'm like, and this chapter was no different. It was like, this dude. So to this, our question that's driving our conversation tonight is, what do we mean when we say thy will be done? What do we mean when we say thy will be done? And the chapter we're working from is chapter 7, thy will be done. Thy will be done. Chapter 7, pages, I believe 54 to 58, pages 54 to 58 in this edition of the book. So this is our outline. I got a couple of announcements. We'll talk about opening prayer. Thy will be done, God's will for you. 7 things you need to know about the will of God, and then Q&A. And of course, please ask questions throughout. I think it's important that you know why you do what you do. And one of the reasons that Thursday night is so important to me is the opportunity to share with you, the opportunity to contribute positively to your life. And I am deeply interested in convincing you of your divinity. And the reason I say it that way is that I know that when you know that you are divine, it will change how you approach the world. It will change how you approach other people, that you cannot know yourself as divine and harm someone else. And you cannot know yourself as divine and then not become a positive force for good in your life. And so I am deeply committed to sharing this information with you in the hopes that it changes you so deeply that you then begin to change everyone else by your own example in your life, and that we create this ripple effect for a better world. So it is altruistic, but it's also selfish because I want a better world. Bottom line. The Bible Hangout is always free. Grateful for you guys just to be here. And I'd teach the walls if I had to, but it does cost. And so if you're moved by this and you want to see this go further and help more people, then consider making a gift. It offsets the cost of producing it, and it makes it available for more people. And so a gift of any size is greatly appreciated. And you can make your donation right at revsherry.com. I am going to be in Atlantic City, August 1st through the 5th. And I have some other dates as well. I didn't make a moment to create a slide. So I'm going to just announce all my speaking dates that are coming up over the next several months. In August 1st through the 5th, I'm going to be in Atlantic City, New Jersey as part of the Panorama of Truth Conference. This is going to be phenomenal. This is our annual conference for the Universal Foundation for Better Living. I cannot overstate how much fun it's going to be, so please be a part of it. I'm also going to be speaking at the 103rd Annual World Congress of the International New Thought Alliance, and the theme for the conference is Out of Control, How to Recapture Your Power. How to recapture your power. And so very excited about that. I'm actually, I am the keynote for Wednesday, July 25th. Yay, God. Go, God. Hey, hey, hey. So I will be closing out the night on July 25th, and I'll be there I'm trying to stay for the whole week because it's the full week Congress. But I'll be there this is in Phoenix, Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona. And then I just got this invitation today. I'm going to be speaking at Unity Village August 16th through the 18th as part of the Fillmore Festival. This is the festival celebrating Charles Fillmore, who is the co-founder of Unity. So I'll have cards up next week in the slides for that. So definitely hope to see you guys there for any of the engagement that you can make. If you're in the Midwest, that's an easy drive to Kansas City. I think Kansas City, Missouri. Don't get me lying. If you're on the East Coast, I would love to see you in Atlantic City. We definitely can do a meetup and can hook up for coffee or something like that. All right, cool. Let's get going. The scripture, Mark 11:24, for this series is, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Mark 11:24. And so in this space of complete possibility, we just know that there is more than enough to spare and to share. We live in an abundant universe. The grace of God now abounds in, through, and as us. And so we just bless this class. We thank you for this exchange. We thank you for this platform. We thank you for guiding our conversation tonight, Spirit. I ask that you use this platform to change us and then to turn us into change agents for the world. In the name and nature of Jesus, it is so, and so it is, and amen. All right, there is a 4-year-old in the background, so just FYI. Hopefully we will have a class sans the 4-year-old. All right, God's will for you. Thy will be done. So one of the things that he opens the chapter this way, which is just like, gut punch from the beginning. But essentially what he says is that when we say thy will be done, thy will be done. Think about how it's used. Thy will be done. How we've been taught to say that, coming into New Thought, that's not something that went away. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. Thy will be. I want to do the will of God. I want to do the will of God. But really, if you think about how many people use it, and even a lot of people in New Thought, that very often it is an unconscious admission that I don't have what I need to be who I want to be. That's really it. It is that, thy will be done. That basically what I want to do, I can't do for whatever reason. So thy will be done. And so by my own words, I end up putting my good somewhere off in the future. And what masquerades as agreement with God turns out to push away the very thing I say I want. And so I want to dig into that tonight, because I want us to examine what we mean, meaning individually, like you, Eves, you, Raymond, you, Alita. What do we mean when we say thy will be done? And to make sure that when we're using thy will be done, that we're not using it as a cop-out from owning our lives. I think that's so important. So this is what he says. He says, not my will, but thine be done. This resignation is not one of blind realization that I can of myself do nothing. The Father within me, he doeth the work. When man wills, he attempts to make something which does not now exist appear in time and space. Too often we are not aware of that which we are really doing. We unconsciously state that we do not possess the capacities to express. We predicate our desire upon the hope of acquiring the necessary capacities in the future. And so when we say thy will be done, what we're really saying is I am not, but I will be. And so we have essentially pushed what we are asking God for off into the future. And so tonight I want to give you 7 things that you need to know about the will of God. When you're working with the will of God, I want to really dig into that. And so the first one, I got to move this. Let's put you right there. Let's see if that works. Does that work? Not quite. It's not quite the best. So the first thing is that you can only express what you are conscious of being. That So I'll read Neville's quote, and then we'll dig into this. So what he says in this particular point that I want you to get is that man does not realize that consciousness is the Father, which it does the work, right? So what does the work is your consciousness, which is the Father as far as your life is concerned. So he attempts to express that which he is not conscious of being. And the problem with that is that unless you are conscious of being it, that which you seek, you will not find it. God operates in lavish abundance all the time. There's no end to it. You can just check any aspect of this universe and you will see that God does things in a really abundant way. It's just the way God gets down. If you look at no matter where you live, if you're in a modest neighborhood or a really regal, royal neighborhood, in any one of those neighborhoods, you lose count trying to count the blades of grass. In any one of those neighborhoods, you lose count trying to count the molecules of sand or dirt, or the air in the neighborhood, just everywhere that God gets it, the trees in the neighborhood, the leaves on the trees in the neighborhood. Just God is just lavish abundance. One of the things I used to geek out on was the number of species of different animals and plants. And like there are 4,000 different flowering plants, not just plants, but 4,000 different species of flowering plants. There are 23,000 different known species of bees. And they always have to say known because they always discover more. This universe is expanding and it's vast already. There are 11,000. This is where I always say God has teamed too much. There are 11,000 different known species of moths. What? So, look, one species of moth would have been good for me. Like, seriously, God, how many different ways can I eat your clothes? I got 11 different thousand species that can eat into your clothes. So anyway, the thing is that God operates in lavish abundance all the time, but we only ever express the portion of God's will that we are conscious of being. So the will of God for you is absolute good, but only what you're conscious of can express through you. The will of God might be absolute good, but only what you are conscious of can express through you. And so you become a faucet almost, or you control the faucet or the flow of good through you by what you are conscious of in yourself. And so it's why you can pray for abundance and Oprah can pray for abundance, and you get two different answers to those prayers. Everybody on the planet is praying for expansion. I don't know anybody who's praying to die. Maybe somebody who might not be in their right mind, but let's just say folks in their right mind are all praying to expand on some level. But Oprah's prayer for expansion is going to net something different from your prayer for expansion. And the difference maker is, what are you conscious of being? Are you conscious of yourself as a change agent in the world? Are you conscious of yourself as someone whose words have value for millions of people? There's nothing to stop you from being conscious of yourself that way, but are you conscious of yourself that way? Because if you're conscious of yourself that way, then your prayers are going to net a little bit closer to what a prayer from Oprah nets. Tell me if this is making sense. You can't get through you what you can't see in you. If you can't see it in you, it can't come out of you. I've got a couple of comments. Alita says, and dandelions. Yes. And more than enough with the moths. Yes, I'm telling you, God was teamed too much with those moths. And so what Neville is saying is that, we need to change our words, because you only ever express the portion of God, of the will of God, that you're conscious of being. And so he's saying, stop saying thy will be done and say thy will is done. It's like, bring this thing into the present tense. Here's the second thing I want you to know. All right, apparently we're going to be moving this thing around. All right, we'll figure it out. All right. All right. Not quite what I want to do. All right. So the second thing that you should know is that you express what you're willing to claim. You express what you're willing to claim. You don't express what you want. You express what you're willing to claim. You do not express your deepest desires. You express the desires that you're willing to claim. And so sometimes we're not willing to claim that much. He says, your claim that you are now that which you want to be will remove the veil of human darkness and reveal your claim perfectly. I am that. You today and you, future you, realized as your higher self. There's a veil of darkness, right, that separates the two. There's a distance between them mentally. And it's covered by this veil of human darkness, things you can't see with your human eyes. You don't know, I share with you guys often that I see myself speaking to masses of people, and I see stadiums of people, and I've seen arenas like, the Dodger Stadium and the Staples Center and things like that. And I see the audiences, throngs of people and all that. And I see that the words that God is speaking through me have value for people, and they're making people's lives better, right? But there's this veil of human darkness between Sherry today that has a little Bible study on YouTube and Sherry who's speaking to masses of people. There's this veil of human darkness that's in between that. What removes the veil of human darkness is the audacity to say, I am that. To claim the stadium, even while I'm sitting talking to, 200 people on YouTube. That even in this moment of just being in this space, to claim that I am that. Because the thing is that creation is finished. Creation is finished. So everything that you and I claim is already done. In fact, you wouldn't be able to claim it were it not already done. The fact that you're claiming it means that creatively it is already done. And so he gives this beautiful analogy, and I love it because well, anyway, I'll just read it. This is, the verse. Eyes have not seen, nor ears heard, neither hath it entered into the hearts of men the things which God hath prepared for those who love the law. When a sculptor looks at a formless piece of marble, he sees buried within its formless mass his finished piece of art. The sculptor, instead of making his masterpiece, merely reveals it by removing the part of the marble which hides his conception. And so there's a part of the marble, the veil of human darkness, that hides the future you. He says, in your formless awareness lies buried all that you will ever conceive yourself to be. The recognition of this truth will transform you from an unskilled laborer who tries to make it so to a great artist who recognizes it to be so. So the Sherry today is trying to make it so as far as what I see in the future. But as I claim, I am that. I am that. That this I am present makes it so that it is, without any effort on my part, because creation is finished. So you express what you're willing to claim. I think what sometimes interferes with us being willing to claim is that, we want to claim it and have it manifest in, certainly inside of 24 hours. Maybe I'm willing to give God 7 days, but come on, God, 14 days, shoot, the bank can turn around a check faster than that. Up to it, God, up to it. And so it is the audacity and the willingness to say I am that until it expresses. I am that until it expresses. I got a comment. Andrea says, congratulations on all your accomplishments, Rev. Your certification and many speaking engagements as keynote speaker, no less. It's all wonderful. Yay. Yay. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you. Let's go to number 3. Frame every claim in the present tense. Frame every claim in the present tense. All right, y'all. Let me fix this. I'm going to have to just make this smaller. Okay, there we go. All right, that should fix it because I think all the others should be fine. Frame every claim in the present tense. I thought this was powerful. To say I shall be well is to say I am ill. To say I shall be well is to say I am ill. To say I shall be debt free is to say I am in debt. Do you get that? Is that you've got to bring it into the now. This is why in Joel 3:10, the prophet says, let the weak say, I am strong. Let the weak say, I am strong, because regardless of how I'm expressing, I don't want to affirm what I don't want. And so to say I will be debt free is to say I am in debt, which is to affirm the very thing I want to be free of. And so you got to start to bring what you want into the present tense. Talk about it as if it is already so for you. So you know what that means too? You might have to get some new people to talk to. It's possible that you don't have anybody in your life that you can talk to as if what you want is already so. And let's say you're not the type of person to just kind of turn into yourself. Some people are introverts, and, you know, more power to you. That's not me. I like to talk. So I like to converse. And so, you know, so but I've got to be mindful of my conversation. So I can't talk in such a way that I push what I want off into the future, which means I got to have people in my life who I can talk to as if it's already so for me, and who then don't shame me for reaching beyond where I am. Because sometimes you reach beyond where you are, but you find out that people are like comfortable with you where you are. I mean, they support you until you really start to break a barrier, right? In fact, okay, I heard this, who said this? Oh, it wasn't Ty Lopez. It was a Tom Bilyeu. No, it was Brendan Burchard. It was Brendan Burchard in a Tom Bilyeu interview. And he said, you know when you're living full out, because the people who would normally sit around and clap for you are sitting around saying you're doing too much. And so if the people around you are not telling you you're doing too much, you're probably not reaching high enough. And that's a little bit of an ouch. But if everybody is cheering for you, that's your clue. Alita says, wow, yeah. So you're meant to stretch. Everything in the universe grows. Every plant, every tree, every animal, every person grows and expands. That's just the law of how things happen. If you saw a plant and it was growing down, what would you say about it? You would say it was dying, because nothing grows down. Everything grows out. And so if everybody around you is comfortable, and I don't mean that you're like difficult to be around, that's not what I mean. But if everybody around you is like, you know, your cheerleader and like cheering you on, you're probably not reaching high enough. And you need to change your language. And you need to start to frame every claim in the present tense. I am debt free. I am a size fill in the blank. I am powerful, healthy, joyous. All those things, begin to put those things into the present tense. I got a couple comments. Hi, Phyllis. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you. So this is the thing. The reason you want to bring it into the present tense is because what happens is that as when you bring it into the present tense, it begins to elicit a feeling inside of you. And it's the feeling that gets the blessing. So as long as you separate what you want in language, you keep it from becoming something you can feel. And as long as it's no longer not something that you can feel, then it's not something that you can have. And so you've got to bring it into the present tense. Now, one of my students came into Bible class, a prayer, well, it's a prayer class, healing class, we were teaching it up on Sunday. And she said something that I thought was powerful. She said, someone taught her, this is something she heard recently, that, you know, when you make affirmations, that to follow it up with a factual statement so that your mind cannot dispute it. And I thought, okay, I could get with that, because I do know that sometimes you can say, I am rich, and saying I am rich, then your conscious mind, which is aware of all the ways that you're not rich, will begin to fight you. And so you all, instead of eliciting the feeling of being rich, you end up creating tension inside of yourself. What I have been taught as a solution for that by Joseph Murphy is that you can just say the words rich, wealth, success, and they will drum up that feeling. That, because that's all you want is the feeling. The words are only important in as far as they bring up the feeling inside of you. If they don't bring up the feeling, then it's like, stop speaking those words. But what she suggested, and I thought that's a good idea, I'll share that, is that you say, I am rich. My name is Sherry James. Because what happens is that when you follow up this affirmation, which may or may not be the way that you feel in the moment, your conscious and your subconscious mind cannot argue with, my name is Sherry James. And so you've essentially diverted the mind. You have short-circuited the effort of the mind to dispute what you say about yourself. And so you interrupt that pattern that would normally debate whether or not what you have claimed is true. So something to try. The fourth thing that you need to know is that judging by appearances makes you a slave to appearances. Ouch, somebody. Judging by appearances makes you a slave to appearances. If you judge after appearances, this is his exact quote, you will continue to be enslaved by the evidence of your senses. And the thing is that some of the problems that we have in our lives, like you might be going through something right now where the physical evidence is so powerful that it's like it holds you mentally hostage. And it's so consuming and you can't see how you're keeping it alive. But it's the problem that won't go away. You've been dealing with it for years, and it's just, and every time you think about it, it just makes you tired. And you just want to just lay down, like, because just thinking about it makes you tired. And the thing is that, and then, perhaps you're going through something where, even just the thought of, I'm keeping it alive is angering to you. And, maybe it makes you say, who in their right mind would want a foreclosure? Sometimes when everybody needs a coach. Sometimes when I'm being coached, it's like, yes, I know these things are true, but I don't necessarily know that I want to hear them right in that moment. And the thing is that choices made in ignorance still produce consequences. Choices made in ignorance still produce consequences. And so, no, you wouldn't in your right mind choose a foreclosure. You wouldn't in your right mind choose to be locked in litigation with someone for years on end. You wouldn't in your right mind, choose to be harmed by someone or betrayed by someone. You wouldn't choose that. But choices made in ignorance still produce consequences. So even if you cannot see how, it doesn't mean that a choice you made did not lead to that consequence or did not contribute to that consequence. And so what you need is a solution for that kind of thing, which is that even in the midst of a painful experience, begin to close the door of your senses to the experience. That means that as the sights and sounds and I come in and information comes in, I'm just closing the door of my senses to it. There's so much happening right now in the U.S. at the time of this taping in terms of race and gender and all kinds of stuff. And I've gotten to the place where I just cannot read another bad report. I just cannot read another bad report. And I do believe that the Father has a word that he wants to speak through me that is a healing agent, a healing balm for this time. But in order to hear the voice of God, I got to close my ear to the voice of the world. In order to hear the voice of God, I got to close my ear to the voice of the world. I cannot hear both. If you were sitting in two couples of people were having conversations, you would only ever be able to pay attention to one conversation at a time. And you might toggle back and forth, but you would miss something in one conversation as you listened to the other. And so I am choosing to close the door of my senses to the conversation of the world. And I am opening the door only to the conversation of God within me, because I'm interested in being of help for such a time as this. I don't believe that I was born out, wrong time, wrong place. I believe that I was born for such a time as this, but I've got to get quiet enough to hear. And I can't do that all wrapped up in the Kool-Aid of everything that's going on. Yvonne says, ouch for me too. Andrea says, we must keep our eyes single. Somebody had their hand raised. I think you should be able to unmute yourself. But if not, I will unmute you. Phyllis says, I try to disconnect with what's going on around me that is not contributing anything to my advancement or my success. Yeah, it is. I don't believe that this spiritual philosophy calls for us to put our heads in the sand. I don't believe that at all. And I think that in New Thought, we've done that too long. We've kind of been this kind of hands off, I'm not in it. And I just don't think that is, that's what God is calling us to do. Okay, I have no idea how to use it. It says Moto E, raised hand. I have no idea how to accept that. All right. What can we do? What can we do? Alita says, I'm in divine order. Amen. Okay, Moto. I don't know if that's you. That might be for Motorola. Your name might not be Moto. Sorry. So if you can figure out how to unmute yourself, if not, if you could put it in the chat, I would be happy to take your question. I can't figure out how to find your video to unmute you. Oh, okay. So this is what he says that I think is powerful. He says the master man's serves is that which he is conscious of being. The master man serves is that which he is conscious of being. Whatever you are conscious of being, you're serving. Now, I didn't put this in the blog post, but I wanted to share this with you tonight because I thought it was so powerful. It is impossible to serve two masters at the same time. The master man serve is that which he is conscious of being. I am Lord and master of that which I am conscious of being. It is no effort for me to conjure poverty if I am conscious of being poor. Did you hear that? It is no effort for me to conjure poverty if I am conscious of being poor. Mommy. Hold on, baby. Hold on. My servant, poverty, right, is compelled to follow me, which is being conscious of poverty, as long as I am the Lord, conscious of being poor. I compel poverty to follow me, be a part of my experience as long as I am conscious of being poor. And so it is do whatever you must but stir up the feeling of wealth inside of you if you want to experience wealth, because you compel it to follow you. It has no choice. And so when I stop being conscious of myself as limited and lacking, I stop serving the master of limitation and lack. Judging by appearances makes you a slave to the appearances you judge by. Number 5, lose yourself in the feeling of what you want to be. Lose yourself. Oh, there we go. Somebody unmuted themselves. Hello. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay, good. I was messaging you in the chat, but you got me now.
Okay. Hi.
My name is Stephanie, by the way. I don't know why this thing come up with Moto, but okay.
Maybe it's a Motorola. Maybe it's a Motorola phone. It might be.
It is. Okay. My question is, you was talking about hearing God, and my question is, do you think that God give us a sign? Like, for an example, if God had told you to go to Florida, and when you go throughout your day, you might see a billboard that says Florida, or you might be in the store and you hear somebody talking about Florida, or if that's something that you wanted to do on your own account without necessarily God telling you, could it be just you manifesting Florida, or is it both?
Well, and Reverend Della would always give this answer, and it would drive me nuts. She would always say, it depends on who's in charge of your life. What does that mean, Reverend Della? But essentially, what are you affirming in your daily walk? Are you affirming that God guides, guards, leads, and prospers me? Because if you are, and then you hear the direction, go to Florida, start investigating it.
Mm-hmm.
And then ask for clarity. God, if this is where you want me to be, make it known to me in such a way that I don't even have to question, this is where you want me to be. Because the thing is, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes when it comes to manifesting, the cliche is we are co-creators with God. And so if I said, I want to go to Florida, then there are going to be certain things that I to do to go. But at the same time, it's like, if God told me to go to Florida, it's like you're trying to discern, are you creating the signs, or is it God giving you the signs?
Sure. And what I'm suggesting is that you can get into relationship with God where you can know with clarity, where the question on your heart has been reduced to nothing. I wouldn't make a move until the question on my heart was gone. So right now, okay, I'm in the midst of having to make some changes in my organization. Right now, this has been long coming. It's been something that's been there for a minute. But and other advisors and other people told me this is what you should do. I've had a cacophony of people, but until I knew in my own heart that this was the right move, I did not move, because there's a such thing as divine timing.
Mm-hmm.
So if using your example of Florida, if you feel like God is calling you to go to Florida, begin to investigate it. Begin to investigate it and sit in prayer with it. It's that God, that's a big move. I don't know where will you be moving from? That's a big move, right? So before I go and do all of that, I need to know without a shadow of a doubt that this is where you want me to go. We don't have to guess with God, and we don't have to figure it out. What keeps us in the space of having to figure it out is when we get the hunch, but we never investigate the hunch.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to take the time to just understand. I'm sure it was probably frustrating as I don't know what for other people in the organization while I listened for the voice of God. But I wasn't going to do one thing until I knew with clarity that this is what the Spirit wanted me to do, because I take that position too seriously to go off half cocked and willy nilly. You know, we're talking about people's lives. We're talking about, there's just a level of integrity, and it's so important just as a pastor, because you don't want people to project onto you, because you want them to see you as a human being who's working this journey just like you are. You know, I might have run out a little bit ahead of everybody else in terms of my learning, but I'm working this thing like everybody else is. Mm-hmm. You can't help people looking at you and placing you on a pedestal, because that's just what people do. We pedestal people. We do that. I don't care who you are. You've got somebody on a pedestal. It could be your mama, could be Oprah, could be, Barack Obama, could be, that's just what we do as human beings. Right. So when you realize that you're in that position, then you have to make sure that every move that you make is in alignment with your integrity, because people don't feel like, oh, she just made a bad decision. It's like God made a bad decision. Like it just goes to a whole other level. One of the things they taught us in seminary, I don't know if this probably applies to women pastors, but certainly male pastors, that, the women that come for you and having your head wrapped on tight when that happens, because when you violate that, it's not just you violating that, it's like a violation from God. It takes on this whole other level. So my point is that what you're describing may not be this life and death, but I would take the same level of seriousness, that I'm here to fulfill God's will and to fulfill God's purpose for my life. And so if God is telling me to go to Florida, then he needs to say it in a way that I can understand it.
And so that kind of goes back to my question, where I guess I would say as confirmation, like if you heard Florida, or if you had the idea of Florida, or if that was something you wanted to do, it got confirmed in the sense of you just going down the street and you saw Florida, or like I said, you walked in the grocery store and you heard people, oh yeah, Florida's this and then the other. Because I think that's where sometimes when it comes to co-creating with God, it can get a little confusing, because you don't know if you're manifesting this because this is something you can do, or if this is something God instructing you to do and he just giving you that little nudge of confirmation saying, this is me. That's all. I was just trying to get a little bit more clarity on.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I would recommend is a daily meeting with God until you have clarity.
Okay.
So I would say that, so that, and same time every day I recommend, but definitely every day, because what I hear you saying is that I feel like God is speaking to me, but I really don't know what God's voice sounds like inside of me. And the only way to know what God's voice sounds like inside of you is for you to, is to get into communication with God. So God has his own language through which he communicates with you. And that could look like a billboard, a grocery store conversation. That could look like that. For me, what I have learned is that in my communication with God, that a certainty will wash over me. Like, this is just what it is. And I've had that happen more than once, to know that that's what I'm listening for. I know that I'm listening for that inner conviction, that feeling of inner conviction. And once I have that feeling of inner conviction, then I know that for me, I have heard. So it really is different with each person. And the only way to know how God sounds in you is to have that daily communion. Okay. And when you have that daily communion, it doesn't take a long time to establish. It really doesn't. If you will give yourself a 7-day, 14-day challenge or 21-day challenge, I love challenges, you'll begin to hear it. And the clarity of God's voice in you, and the question, is this God or is this me, will honestly leave your heart.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Very nice to meet you, Steph. Where are you, may I ask?
I'm in Atlanta.
Hey, ATL.
Yeah.
Yes.
We spoke about this like over a year ago when I was in Charlotte. So I'm here
Okay.
now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I hope you're loving Atlanta. I hope you're getting your blessings in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Well, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
So,
you too,
mhm,
officially.
yes. So the fifth thing is that you want to lose yourself in the feeling of what you want to be. And so this is what he says. He says, as your attention is placed on your claim, the doors of the senses automatically close against your former master being the problem, right? You stop paying attention to the problem and you begin to pay attention to what you want. As you become lost in the feeling of being, the doors of the senses once more open, revealing your world to be the perfect expression of that which you are conscious of being. And so what I recommend, and I do this, where's my phone? I've shown you guys this before. I have this program that I love. It's called 7 Weeks. And I don't know if that's going to be too clear. Yeah, 7 weeks. So it's an app. And I don't know if they make it for iPhone, but they definitely make it for the Droid. And in this app, what it is, it's like my daily little tracker. And so I call it my mental rehearsal, where I literally set a timer and I just spend my time getting lost in the feeling of what I'm calling forward. Because I'm closing the door on what I can see with my eyes consciously. And I am opening the door to what I want. Somebody. Who do I have to mute? Stephanie, is that you that I got to mute? Yep. Okay, there you go. Okay. So I'm opening the door to what I want. I'm opening the door to what I want by getting lost in the feeling of it. And so sometimes I might sit in the stadium and look back at myself on the stage. Sometimes I might be on the stage and look out on the audience. Sometimes I am backstage listening to the opening music before I walk on stage. But every day I'm taking just 5 minutes to get lost in the feeling of what I'm calling forward. That I'm closing my door on the senses of what my senses report of what my world looks like today. Closing the door to that. And I'm opening the door to the world that I'm calling forward. So I'm losing myself in the feeling of what I want to be. And you don't need a whole lot of time. 5 minutes is plenty. 5 minutes is plenty to impact or affect a change that will change your entire life forever. Number 6, consciousness expresses its likeness on earth. So the prayer, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Only what we perceive of heaven gets expressed on earth. I'll say that again. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Only the will of God that we're conscious of gets expressed on earth. The will is absolute good. The will for you is as much money as you can stand. The will for you is as much joy as you can stand. The will for you is as much peace as you can stand. But only the portion of the will of which you are conscious of is what gets expressed on earth in your life. And so Neville writes, and I think this is powerful, there's only one door through which that which you seek, right? There's only one door that what you want is going to come through. I am the door. When you say I am, you are declaring yourself to be first person, present tense. There is no future. And so the question is, do you know what's awake in you? Because I have found that I don't always know what's awake inside of me. So sometimes the thought of not having might be what's awake in us, or the thought of not being enough might be what's awake in us. Pay attention to your gut reactions to experiences. So like when you see stuff on social media, what is your what is your immediate reaction to that? When the stuff that you see on social media, what is your immediate reaction to that? You know, is it, I went back. I didn't mean to do that. Is it frustration? Is it anger? Is it disgust? Is it, you know, shaking your head? Like what, like if you think about the things that are happening, what is your reaction to it? Because whatever is that first reaction that comes up, that is what is awake inside of you. And so my consciousness lawfully expresses whatever is awake in me. And so sometimes, you know, like I went through this, I had to make a conscious decision. You got to wait, babe. You got to wait. What do you want?
I want the tomato. I want the tomato on the iPad.
Okay, honey. All right. Do you want to say hi to everybody since you interrupted my class?
Hi.
Okay. All right. There you go. So I remember being in college, and this is, you know, being on Penn's campus and all right, tell the truth, Sherry. I remember seeing interracial couples and then this feeling coming up inside of me. And I had to learn to tell the truth to that feeling, but it was like the gut reaction if I would see something. And some of it was just in the culture. Like I might be with a couple of friends, you know, and now I was never that kind of person where I was going to say something against the couple, but that didn't mean it wasn't rising up in me. And then, you know, the person I might have been riding with in a car, I'm thinking of a particular instance, person I'm riding with in a car, they may say something about that. And I had to talk to myself about the feeling that was coming up, the energy that was coming up. And so sometimes we have things that are awake inside of us that we don't even realize are awake inside of us. And if you pay attention to your gut reactions will reveal to you what's inside of you. And so you look for the things that elicit the strongest feelings in you. So if it's, you know, another, you know, killing by the police, if it's another, you know, whatever the thing is for you, I'm throwing this out. These are just examples. But it will tell you what's awake inside of you. And the thing is that whatever is awake inside of you by law, by spiritual law, must express in your life. So the anger that you feel doesn't end with the expression toward that one thing. It colors your entire life. Hear what I'm saying? That the feeling of lack that, you know, when I was in my 20s and seeing an interracial couple and that feeling that, you know, the good ones are gone or whatever that energy was, let's say, that feeling doesn't stop with that particular expression. It permeates the experience because it's a consciousness. And so by law, my earth has to look like my consciousness. And so the feeling of lack doesn't contain itself in relationships. It spreads to the money, it spreads to the job, it spreads to the health. It because it's a consciousness. There's only one door. And so you got to pay attention to the feelings that are coming through that door. And so pay attention to the things that elicit the strongest emotions from you, because those are the things that are awake inside of you. And those are the things that you've got to deal with if you want heaven to manifest on earth, because I can't have more heaven than the limitations I'm willing to release. I can't have what is perfect for me if I am saying that somebody else got it. Okay. I don't even know if that point landed or not. I'm gonna just keep going because I gotta keep going. Number 7, last thing. We control the will that expressed through us. We control the will that expresses through us. So we don't control God's will, but we control how the will expresses through us. We don't control God's will, but we do control how it expresses through us. Alita says it has to come through me to come out of me. Yes. Yes. I can't, some things you can't afford to feel because I don't want that showing up nowhere else in my life. As part of the reason I had to like put a time out on social media. It's like, shoot, this stuff will have me jacking up all my blessings. I get a whole lot of stuff and good stuff and then fritter it all away, getting caught up in my feelings behind some mess I see on social media. Neville says, let us follow the example of Jesus, who realized as man he could do nothing to change his present picture of lack. He closed the door of his senses against his problem and went to his Father, the one to whom all things are possible. So sometimes it's like, you know what? I can't change this picture of lack, right? I'm powerless to change this picture of lack. But I can close my senses. I can stop letting it impact me emotionally. I can stop letting it push my buttons. And I can go to the Father, the one to whom all things are possible. This formless formless absolute good. And I can deny the evidence of my senses and claim myself to be all that just a moment before my senses told me I was not. My senses will tell me, Sherry, I'm small time preacher in Inglewood, California, got a YouTube Bible study, but hey, that's what the senses tell me, right? Got this, modest congregation where we have 58 members and that's what the senses tell me. But I can close the door to the senses and open myself to what a moment ago my senses told me I am not, because of this power that's inside of me. And I can begin to express the will at a higher level. We don't control the will, but we do control how the will expresses through us. I think this lesson is so powerful. I'm so glad that this is a chapter in this text. I got a couple of comments. Alita says, I know, right? Yes. yes. So just a recap, 7 things to know. Number 1, you only express what you are conscious of being. Number 2, you express what you're willing to claim. Are you bold enough to say it? I am a world-class speaker. I travel all over the world helping people. I make people better. You express what you're willing to claim. Number 3, frame every claim in the present tense. Not I will be, but I am. Number 4, judging by appearances makes you a slave to appearances. I'm not judging by what I can see, because what I can see will keep me locked to where I am. Number 5, lose yourself in the feeling of what you want to be. Just that 5, y'all know I have my timer. My happy little timers, it's so cute. Lose yourself in the feeling of what you want to be. Just set your timer and just me and God. We're going to do a little time travel into the future, God. Number 6, consciousness expresses its likeness on earth. If it's on earth, it's in the consciousness. If it's in my experience, it's in the consciousness. Notice it and then close the door to it. And number 7, we control the will that expresses through us. We control the will that expresses through us. Got a comment? Thank you, Alita. Alita says, yes, you do. Yes. Yes. Andrea says, love tonight's class. Love the 7-step format. Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. Thy will is done. Have you been placing what you want deep into the future through your words? Have you been placing what you want deep into the future through your words? Not I will be, but I am. Not thy will be done, thy will is done. And then, this teaching is so practical. You don't really have to take what I say on faith. You could actually just do this stuff, right? So just pick something. It's like, what's one thing that you want to speak differently about? just one thing. If maybe it's in regards to your health or in regards to your happiness, maybe it's in regards to your confidence. You know, confidence will carry you so far. And when you don't have it, it'll jack everything up. The few things that will come your way, your lack of confidence will run it away. You know, choose one thing to speak differently about, and then apply the technique of getting lost in the feeling of the finished desire. So just see yourself there, and then track your efforts. Now, I have two ways that I track efforts. I have a paper calendar, and I have my app that I showed you guys, 7 weeks on my Android phone. So however you track your efforts, but just something to say that I did it today, right? That I didn't just, you know, that I accomplished the task that I said I was going to do. So track your efforts. That's really, really, really important to track your efforts. It's just a way to keep yourself accountable, because maybe you don't have an accountability partner, but you can make your calendar your accountability partner. Malala says, how do you know that you are not copping out and escaping? Malala, unmute yourself and ask me some more about that. I think I understand what you're saying, but if you could ask me some more. Phyllis says, I have to write my bio, and I will keep in my I am in my mind. Yes. Eve says, I'm going to frame every claim in the present tense. Amen. I think I understand your question, Malala. If you can unmute yourself, that'd be great. You said, how do you know that you are not, there you are.
Yeah.
Hi.
So, yeah, how do you know when to stop pushing for what you want and just like let, you know, the will happen, the will of God happen?
Sure. So the Matthew 5:3 says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. The poor in spirit are the ones who are not puffed up in ego, right? That to be poor in spirit is to be teachable, is to be in a space where you can take in new information, but it also means that you're relaxed. And so all of this, there's no straining in the process. This is a very easy, we're not forcing something to happen, because you can't force something to happen. You can never express what you're not conscious of being. What you're doing in what I call the mental rehearsal, but others call visualization, is that you're practicing being what you want to be. And you're practicing feeling what you want to feel. And there is a spiritual law that governs the process. So there is no copping out. There is no denial. If you are being diligent every day and tracking it, and the reason I recommend the tracking it is because a lot of times what happens is that we'll start something, but we won't finish it. And what the results that I have gotten in my life have come when I have gone at it daily, not in an aggressive, grasping, trying to make it happen kind of way, but just gentle, resilient, showing up every day, persistent.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't force anything.
You can't force anything.
Heard.
There was a clip with, do you know who E.T. the hip hop preacher is?
Mm-mm.
Okay. He was on Steve Harvey's show. He's if you take a look at some of his videos, I'm a fan of his. He was talking to Steve Harvey, and they were answering questions, and Steve Harvey's audience is primarily women. And this woman, they gave the different women cards to stand up. And this woman stood up, and her card says, I want a man. And so she was telling a story, Steve, this is my thing. I want a man. I'm going to get a man this year. I think it must have been at the top of the year. You know, I went to Home Depot at night, like you told me, and, you know, she was going on. And he was like, that Home Depot comment, that was a joke. But Eric's response to her, I really appreciate it, because he said that, you know, there are two ways of getting what you want. One is what you're doing, going out, grasping, I'm going to make this happen. He said, but there's another way. And he told the story of meeting Steve Harvey 6 years before. And they exchanged numbers. He said, but I never called him. He said, instead, I kept grinding it out. He has a video series online. I don't know if he does it as much anymore, but it's called Thank God It's Monday. Really great series where it's just, Monday motivation. And he just shares his hustle, shares what he's doing, and shares how he has, really developed his life. And then in the process, he said, I went and I got my PhD, and I kept hustling, kept doing this and getting speaking gigs and doing this. And basically said, one day I look up and I get a phone call from Steve Harvey's team inviting me to the show to speak. And he said, so you can go out and grasp, or you can become the person who can have. And what you're doing when you are doing this mental rehearsal is you're becoming the person who can have what you want. But you've got to be persistent with it. What will begin to happen is that you will get nudges and hunches and intuitive pushes to take action. As you persist in the mental rehearsal, things will come up. An idea will come to you and say, try this, do, it's just really gentle. So it's so easy to do, so easy not to do. And it'll be the thing that then opens a door that you never could have seen open before. But you've got to trust the process and show up every day for the mental rehearsal. You can't force when the hunch is going to come. You can't force when the intuitive nudge is going to come.
Yeah.
But if you persist in the mental rehearsal, the hunches, the intuitive nudges, the divine pushes, they will come.
Okay. I think I can work with that. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple comments. I won't stop until you bless me. Yes, that's is that Joshua? Where is he fighting? Fought the angel. Jacob. It was Jacob. Jacob fought the angel. I ain't gonna stop until you bless me. I'm gonna keep showing up every day, God, until you bless me. I will show up. I will pray. I will fast. I will keep reaching for this until I have what I want. Anyway, thank you guys for tonight. Our chapter for next week, because this book is so good. Neville is so dope. No other God. Now, y'all know this is going to be dope. Have no other gods before me. So he's going to be getting into the gods that you do have before God. Woo, Lord. It's not even a long chapter. This thing is like 3 pages 59 to 61. But it's going to be 3 pages of pure hotness. So anyway, thank you guys. Have a beautiful night, and I will see you next week. God bless.